really quick. Welcome to American TESOL Presents Free Friday Webinars. I'm Shelly Sanchez-Terrell, and every Friday we are here thanks to American TESOL. So it's free. You can bring a friend. You can also get a certificate for attendance. You can get all the bookmarks, and all of this is recorded. So you can even watch past ones that you haven't seen before. The other great thing is that we have over 100 of them. So there's something to cover pretty much every single topic. And we have talked about project-based learning, but we will talk about it specifically with ICTS this time. I think we talked about it about mobile learning before. And so this isn't really to tell you about different project-based learning lessons, but this is more of like how to organize it. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Below, I'm posting the bit.ly address, and that's where you can get your certificate, and then you can get all the resources, including this slide presentation. So if you miss anything, don't worry about it. Project-based learning is really great for language learners too. So we have people from all over the world. And I have created projects or had my students do projects all the way from 4 years old to 80 years old. And I find it's a very, very effective way of teaching, especially diversifying lessons and things like that. So I prefer to do projects instead of following just normal worksheets and giving tests all the time. I think it's better for assessment as well. The great thing is that when we're going to talk a lot about group projects today, and with group projects, you really get to help students learn to communicate and problem solve with each other. So what is project-based learning? Well, it's, in my mind, this is what I think good, effective project-based learning is. I think it's hands-on. It's collaborative, where you have to help each other in order to create something. Now, if they're doing a project by themselves, it's still collaborative because you can still help each other, the students, and I try to encourage them to always help each other. For language learners, I think it's really important to get them to work in small groups. I know there are some students who don't have that personality, but all through life, they're going to have to work with others. So it's really important that we teach them the skills now to do this. It's very cooperative. In other words, a lot of the things I tell you today is from cooperative learning theory. And according to that, each person gets a specific task and they have a specific role and a part to play in the project. And it's like a puzzle piece, because if one doesn't finish their task, then the whole group suffers. So it's very important we do that to make sure that not one person is carrying the brunt or the burden of the project. It's goal-oriented. There are things that they have to achieve. And then they also allowed to explore and experiment. And that's why I prefer this as an assessment tool. And usually I'll have a project every single week for my students. And the reason why I do that is because tests I don't think truly assess learners. When students are doing projects, then you can see how far they go with different parts of the project. So you can see, for example, how well they are doing in writing, in research, in speaking, and all of these things with a group project. But you can't tell that on a test. So you don't know if their speaking ability is well. You don't know if they memorize a whole bunch of facts and they're just remembering it for the test. So there's a lot of things you can tell with project-based learning. When I do a project with students, one of the things that I first do is I go to my textbook or course book that I am looking at, and I sit down with it and I look at all of the different themes that we have for the course book. And then I just simply and quickly go over, after scanning it, and circle a few of the themes that I know, okay, that's what I'm going to do a project on. One of the themes that I usually touch on that we always do projects on is travel, because that's an easy one to do. Restaurants, so if you're learning restaurant language. I do a family project that kind of encompasses a lot of things. Sometimes I'll do a big project that takes on many, many topics. So they'll have, for example, with the family project, they had to have a baby egg, and their baby egg they carried around with them. You might have heard of this project before. And they had to do different things with the baby egg. They had to dress it. They had to go shopping for it. They had to shop for a car. They had to take pictures. So they learned different types of vocabulary, like clothing, like features, like finance and things like that. They learned different kinds of things with that one project. It's good to look at the objectives too. What are you trying to get them to accomplish? And the reason that's so important is because then it decides the ICT. This is where the technology comes in. Because you have to decide what is the final product. What are they going to do? Are they going to create a digital story, a poster, and there's posters that you put on the wall, but there's also these posters that are multimedia, like Glogster and ThingLink and Bite Slides. Are they going to make a magazine? Is it going to be a paper magazine, or is it going to be an online magazine? You can do that with a Flipboard. Are they going to make a timeline? It can be an online timeline. Are they going to invent something? Are they going to invent an app, a game? All of these things they can do with digital tools. Are they going to create a podcast? Are they going to make a video? Are they going to do a showcase of research? You'll see my live binders, and that's a great way to showcase research. You may have them do something like post things in a wiki. You may have them do an infographic, or you may have them do something altogether different. They might design a restaurant. Maybe they design a menu. So it's up to you. What is the final product? That's what you have to decide. And you get to be very creative with this. And so once you think of the final product, what you want them to do, then you can decide which technology is going to be the best technology. Is it going to be a web tool? Is it going to be something like Storybird or VoiceThread or Animoto? Is it going to be a mobile app? Maybe they're going to use Evernote, or maybe they're going to use Idea Sketch mind mapping app. Or are they going to use digital software or a digital device? Are they going to use something like GarageBand or iMovie? Or are they going to use just their digital cameras? Or maybe you have an altogether new tool that you were given by a technology company, and that's what you want them to create with. So it's completely up to you which tool you decide. Now I know there's so many different choices, but there are ways to help with this. So for example, if you're using ICT, if you want them to use a web tool, Kelly Tinkley from I Learn Technology, she has a wonderful Blooms that will show you the different types of things. So if you want them to do any of these, you just click on it, and then you can see all the web tools that support that, like applying, understanding, remembering, analyzing, evaluating, creating. So the tool isn't the most important thing. Yes, there are teachers who find a tool they absolutely love, like Animoto or VoiceThread, and they will create projects just for that. Okay, that's fine. You can do that as well. But I like to first think about the objectives and everything we're going to do before I get excited by a tool and say, okay, I'm going to create the project for the tool. So it's the themes, what I have to teach, the project, and then the tool. That's the way I think is best. Kelly has another Blooms like this. In previous webinars, I have shown you that there's also, by Kathy Schrock, she has iPad Blooms, Android Blooms. So there's a Blooms for all kinds of apps and technologies out there. And all of those are bookmarked in the Pearl Tree. So if you need any of these bookmarks, that's okay. You can find them all here. You have to sift through a lot of stuff, but you'll find them. There's a couple of good places to also look. EdShelf. EdShelf.com is a directory of digital tools for educators. So what you can do with EdShelf is you can actually put video projects. You can put video or digital storytelling first graders, and it'll come up with many tools that will be good for that. Now these tools are free, so these websites and web tools are really good, they're really cool, and they're free, so that's even better. So what are the components of a project-based lesson plan? For me, they're probably, you've seen them a little bit different. And I could show you just the lesson plan and then you can go through the parts. But in the bookmark tools, you'll actually find tons of lesson plans and you can do that yourself, or you can actually go through and you can adapt it for yourself. But these are what I think are the most important, or what I try to do with every single project that I have. I have them brainstorm, I have them do research, I have them present, and then I have them evaluate. I evaluate and they evaluate. So I'm going to go through these different components with an example that I have used. So this is an example of a small group project, which is called Invent an App. And so in this particular project, students get in small groups. So you can see the students, they're in small groups. I usually do about 3 to 4. Anything above 4 I think is just too many students. Effective group work I think is 3 or 4. Or even a lot of times I'll do pair work, and that works well. Students choose an object, so they choose anything. They can choose, usually I walk in and I say, here is this pen. This pen has extraordinary skills. It can write whatever the person next to you is thinking. So after I present that to them, I say, okay, now you have to choose an object that you carried into class, and something in your purse or in your backpack or anything like that. And in your groups, you decide what extraordinary skill does it do? Does it help you study? Does it transport you to another time? What does it do? And then I tell them you have to create a 30-second video commercial showcasing the object and its skills. The students love this. You can see where they're doing this right now. One of the students had a little tiny car that they brought in with them. Who would have known? And so right now you can see that they're getting together what this is gonna do. Okay, so after I tell them what they're doing and give them instructions, now they usually get a checklist. I usually give them a PowerPoint that has very basics. This is what you do. They get a rubric. They get all kinds of things to help them. And I'll show you those in just a sec. But the brainstorming part, well, they brainstorm. How do they brainstorm in the project? They jot down possible objects and skills. So that's the first part. A lot of times I'll have my students use graphic organizers. They'll do KWL charts. They'll do different types of Venn diagrams. So I use graphic organizing in the brainstorming part a lot, or they'll do T-charts. The students create, also they're doing brainstorming on 2 levels. They're doing it for the object and whatever skill they're going to come up with for the object. So they have to do this as a group. But the other part is they have to come up with a storyboard. What are they going to put in their commercial? So they brainstorm that. And in past projects, digital storytelling, webinars and stuff, I've shown you some storyboarding graphic organizers to help your students. So you can have graphic organizers at each stage. And I think with language learners and learners in particular, it's very important to have graphic organizers. And the reason is because it helps those learners who might have low literacy or who learn better visually. It really helps them cognitively. It helps support them. So that's what I recommend. And then research. They did the research conducted to produce their commercials. They have to research market prices. What are they going to charge for this new thing that they came up with? A target audience. Who are they selling this to? Because that's going to determine what their commercial is about and how they do the commercial. Maybe they're going to research different types of commercials to see what would be a really great idea for their commercial. The best places to include their commercial, like what TV shows, things like that. So I'm getting them to think about different things, so it becomes a lot more of a project. It gets them to problem solve, it gets them to think, it gets them to research, do a lot of different research. And then where are they going to sell the product? Are they going to sell it at CVS or Walmart or the supermarket? Where are they going to sell it? Online? It's very important at this point that we show them how to research. So there's a lot of places where they can bookmark online and take notes. Here are a few of my favorites. You'll see the Pearl trees example because I always use Pearl trees. You also see live binders with the bit.ly ELT links. So and you'll also see Digo is one of my favorites. Delicious is also pretty much the same as Digo. I just happen to like Digo better. Pinterest, Evernote, and Scoop It. All of these are great researching tools and a great way when they're going online or doing any kind of research to really, they can take pictures and upload them. They can take audio research. They can, because a lot of times I'll have them do video interviews. I'll have them look at videos and things like that. So I try to get them to look at different multimedia for the research. And then I have them bookmark it, and then they can have it for life if they sign up for any of these bookmarking tools. So it's good to teach them that. And last week, if you were here, then we did a webinar on research and note-taking, so you can refer back to that one. And then finally, they have a presentation. So when they do the presentation, I allocate a day. Usually we'll start a project on, I'll give them Monday, and then next Monday will usually be their presentation that they have to give. Sometimes it has to be more than one day. It has to be 2 days. And in that case, I just draw their things. Usually we can get through a whole class period of commercials. And one of the reasons why is because they're only 30 seconds. So, and the reporter, you'll see in a little bit how they present these. But one of the group members who is deemed the reporter will go and they will present the object, the commercial. It's very succinct, and then what skill it has, and then they'll present the commercial. So they stand up and we show it on the big screen. Sometimes we can make a big deal if you're doing a film or something like that. Maybe you don't have a presentation, and sometimes they'll get up and they'll speak and they'll have a presentation. You may want to show a website. Maybe they did books and maybe they have to present that way. Sometimes I have them present in pairs if it's a long project. So for example, if they are doing a short movie, or maybe they're doing a long book or a magazine, then they can present it to another class, or they can share it with another group, and then you have groups presenting to each other. And that's a way, so that way you can save time if you don't have that extra day to spend on watching lots and lots of movies. As support student choice, and what do I mean by that? Well, I provide them with a list of recommended tools and tutorials for those tools. So for example, there's lots of wonderful tools out there for creating movies. There's Animoto, there's slide presentation tools as well, Videolicious, there's all kinds of things that your students can do. So what I like to do is give them something like a Pearl tree. I have usually a wiki, and it gives them the details of the project. Or if we're in Edmodo or something like that, then they'll get a link, and what it'll say is it'll have a list of recommended tools, and then they get to decide. They get to choose. Ooh, I really like this tool, or I like this video creating tool. You know, if they want to use iMovie, they can use that. The point is that they're creating a video, so lots of things can get that done. And I've seen some students do really amazing things with the different types of apps and tools when they're given a choice. I also give them a choice, for example, on what object you saw, the skill. So as many times as you can give them a choice, the more creativity you allow, and it's really great for them. There's a couple of evaluations that they do. They actually do 4 different types in my class. They do an individual evaluation where they say how they did. They get to grade themselves. They do a group evaluation, how their team members did. The class evaluates the presentation and their overall. So so the class, the different groups will actually go and they'll evaluate other group projects. And then I do an evaluation as well. I evaluate with rubrics. I use a lot of rubrics for that. And a lot of teachers say when you're using rubrics, you can adapt them. Kathy Schrock has a rubric for every single project out there, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel or create this. You can just go and you can adapt it for your class. But I use a lot of Google Doc forms. I put that up there so students can have it offline and they can have it on easily accessed on the internet as well. But the other part of this is that a lot of teachers will say, have the students help create the rubric. Sometimes I do that. Sometimes if I don't have time, then I just use past rubrics. This is what an evaluation looks like. Now, I got this from my a group evaluation. I actually got this from the University of Phoenix when I was doing my master's. So I thought it was really good and to adapt. So basically here it's very easy, it's very simple. They use this scale. 1, strongly disagree, 2, agree, disagree, 3, agree, 4, strongly agree. They put the names of the students and then they have to give them a 1 through 4 rating on preparation, attendance, participation, interpersonal relations. And that's really important because if you have members who are very rude or mean, then we need to take that into account because we're helping them to become better, working in teams better. And that means they have to respect each other. They can disagree, but they have to do it in a way that is not demeaning, berating, that doesn't make anyone feel like their input is not valued. How they did with communication, if they responded and if they communicated often, and then what their overall score is. It's like it's a mash of all of that. And that gives you an idea as well of how the team members work. But that also, if team members know that they're being evaluated, guess what? They're going to put their best work because when students think they're graded, they do a lot of things for that. So how do you organize a project-based learning? My classroom is very different. It looks a lot like this. This is actually not my classroom. This is Kathy Cassidy because I forgot to take pictures of mine, but I think this is the dream setup, okay? So you have an individual work area, you have a group area, you have where all materials are, you have different learning stations, you have an area where they can relax, a whole class meeting area. And then you can act as the facilitator. So whether you're bringing in a cart of ICT of all the tools they're going to use, or whether you're giving lab time, you can walk around and monitor, facilitate if they have any questions or anything like that. Now, the way that I do this is the cup system because you have all these students raising their hands. So you can simplify helping groups by easily doing this cup system. Now you usually have a red, blue, yellow, blue, and red cups. Now when the group puts a yellow, that whatever the top cup is in the color is their status. So yellow is sunny and bright, everything's all right. Blue is we're through, what should we do? In other words, they're finished. Red is we have a problem, we need help, okay? So this is an easy way to monitor. And then what you can do is a lot of teachers wear a scarf. They put a scarf around their neck, and this scarf means I'm helping another group. As soon as I finish with this group, then I'll go help your group, okay? So these are ways to manage the projects and effectively facilitate. Another way to do this is with Google Calendar and calendars in general. I have a calendar on the wall, and it's a dry erase one, and I add every Monday the different types of text, the station leaders, the projects, different parts of the project, things like that. So the calendar is ongoing. They have access to them. I love Google Calendar. Google Calendar is absolutely amazing. Your students you can put up alerts. So if they were on a Google Calendar, they could actually click on it. They can see the details of the project. They can automatically get reminders and alerts sent to their email, to text messages. Their parents can automatically get the project details, text message to them. So Google Calendar works as a great way to remind them, to give them details. And you know, students really do need reminders very often. They have to actually they have to be on Google Calendar in order to receive these. And they also have to include their, you can include their email, but they have to personally include their SMS. So so you can only do that if they get permission. So how do we do group projects? Well, you assign tasks and roles, and you can either, they used to do it with little index cards that were very small, something that looks a lot like this. But I do it now, I just have a Google Doc that has these different roles. So they have a team leader, an organizer, a deliverer, and a reporter. Each of these are things that they do in every single group project. The team leader does a lot more than this, but this is the gist of it. And I give them their roles and they know. And then each time I keep the students in the same group, unless throughout the year they just change roles. The only time I change group members is if, for example, they have too much of a conflict or their personalities clash and I just don't think they're a good fit. Then that's the only time I'll really change. But for the most part, I keep them in the same group because it establishes relationship. It helps them get to know each other, their strengths, their weaknesses. And I switch roles. So one member will be a team leader one project, and then another team member will be next project the team leader. So the team leader ensures the group is listening, completing tasks. The organizer makes sure that everyone participates and understands the instructions. The deliverer turns in the project, and the reporter presents for the group. Now, in the first project, I allow them to choose which tasks and roles they want. This is part of cooperative learning, so it works really well, and then they choose, and then after that, they rotate. And they still get to choose these roles as long as they didn't have it in the first project. Then we do a team building activity. That's the first project. They have to have their group name, their group color, a group theme song, and then a team mascot. And that's theirs for the rest of the semester, is this group thing. And the reason why we do this as a first initial project is because it's really important that you get the groups to know each other, to establish relationships, and to really see themselves as a team and a group. Because if they see themselves in the beginning as a team and a group, they'll have less conflict and they'll create better projects. They'll have a good synergy, and that's what you want. You're going to have to provide virtual and physical places for them to collaborate. So whether it's so you give them class time okay, so maybe the big part is they have an hour on Monday, or 20 minutes on Monday, or 15 minutes. And then every day give them about 5 minutes, okay? So they'll have the last 5 minutes of class or something. They get to work on their group project. And there's a good reason for that. I'll tell you in a little bit. But here they have Google Apps. I use Google for everything, as you can tell. I mentioned Google a lot. I like to use Google Docs so they can brainstorm and create. It saves it offline. Every time I do a project on Google Docs, I can turn it into PDF. I can save it as a Microsoft Word, so then I can add it in the flash drive. It works good if you don't have the internet, but it also works well if you do. It works on mobile devices, so it's good for mobile projects. They can chat and communicate with each other collaboratively. So that's why Google Docs is really great for that. You can get them to fill out forms online. Google Calendar I use for creating alerts. You can embed it in a wiki. You can create different events, and those events can be the project due date or when they have to present. You can alert students and parents, and it works on mobile device. In fact, it's so great that every single day when my Google Calendar alert will alert me, it pops up on my phone. Even when I'm not connected to the internet, it just magically pops up there and it tells me what I'm doing. Google Hangouts. I love Google Hangouts. It's a way that they can work on from home. They can be on video, and they can even have on another screen their Google Doc that they're working on. So they can see each other on video, and they can work on the Google Doc as well. They can record their meetings for you, so you can tell that they're on task and not messing around. Another great way to collaborate or have your groups work is Widgio. I prefer Widgio over for small group work. I even prefer it over Edmodo. But it's really great. It has where you can do different events. You can have it has an interactive whiteboard in it. It was created by college students who do group work. So it has a lot of effective things. It has to-do lists, reminders. It has polling, and it has a calendar and folders. So, and Widgeo, it also has an app for mobile devices. So Widgeo is a great place for groups to do work. You're going to have to make sure that all the resources are in one place. This can either be a folder on the desktop computer, and when I haven't had the internet available, then what I do is I have one computer, and it has all of their folders in that computer. Every day when they come in, they have a flash drive. Flash drives are so cheap these days. So I get a group set, just one per each group, and then they keep all of their resources on the flash drive. They also have the folder on the computer, and I like to have it in different places because that way if they ever lose anything, then it's somewhere else. So I use Dropbox as well. This is online. You can create folders and stuff, and I use Google Drive as well. And Google Drive is like Dropbox. You may have your own LMS platform. You may have a Moodle, or you may have where you post all of this, or maybe you have a wiki, or maybe you have you can have Edmodo, different places like that. So it depends on you to make sure that you have it labeled group 1, and then if they're called the unicorns, then it says the unicorns, and you have everything in one place for them to find. So what are you going to include in that one place? Well, you're going to include the resources they need, any links. So for example, if you have a list of tools they're going to use, you have to have a list of all of those tools. Maybe you have little icons that they can click, and then they can open up if it's a software. Any types of forms or checklists, forms that they're going to have to fill out, the evaluation forms, the team, and all of these can be repeated per project. So you don't have to recreate things again and again. Rubrics, the instructions, examples, if you have any examples, their roles where I listed, what the team leader does and all of that. So make sure that they have all of that in one folder, one place with their labeled with their group name. You're also going to have to think of where you're going to publish everything. You can do this in a wiki, and I have done that before, like when we've done Voki projects. But Linowit.com works really well. They can upload files, they can upload videos, pictures, audio, put links to different things as well. And that way it's easy for everyone to see everybody's different projects. You can keep them on task by Google Calendar. By having them complete daily progress logs. So what that is the last 5 minutes of class, they have to write down what they did for their project that day. If they do it, and the reason I do this, I don't grade these. These are more like participation. They have to have them in there. But if you have the last 5 minutes of class to do that, then they're always remembering. They're always reminded. And with students, you have to remind them constantly. So give them that 5 minutes to kind of group together and just quickly write down what they completed for their project that day and what they have left to complete. And that will keep them on task. Giving them the 5 minutes every day really helps as well. And that 5 minutes is a time when you can relax and you can do other things. You can work on maybe grading and things like that. So it's good to have these things. You can even give them email alerts, all of this with Google Calendar. So there are some different types of tools out there that will text students, and they're great, but I just find Google Calendar does everything for me. So we're about to wrap up. You can find the presentation bookmarks here, and let me go ahead and get you that Pearl Tree. I know we did a lot of things, and I really hope this helps you manage a project. Within this Pearl Tree, you're going to find different types of lesson plans, the PBL classroom. You'll find 20 tips for managing projects. You'll find project-based lesson plans with different types of ICT listed by subject. You'll find thousands of them. You'll find my DECO bookmarks on different presentations I have found. You'll find student examples. So you can find lesson plans within here. You'll find templates on how to plan in PBL with ICT. Now, the reason why I didn't include lesson plans within here or lesson ideas is because there's so many, and pretty much each webinar we do it on digital storytelling or anything is its own project. So you can go and you can decide which is the best for your age group, your English level, your student population, your subject matter. And you can also get your certificates for coming today when you go to this bit.ly address as well. Thank you.